The Night Stalker Creed says that we want to be up front where the fighting is hard, and we'd rather die than quit. That was the guarantee we gave to the ground force, and it was something that were not just words, it's what we believed in. From those experiences, my dad, his brother in Vietnam, he served in the Navy. My brother and I in Iraq and Afghanistan came a family saying, and that's chin up and head down. It means stay positive and avoid the bullets. And it's that same persistence, perseverance, grit, and determination that we are taking forward in this campaign to fight on behalf of our district, our state, and our country.
Hi, welcome to the Rutherford County GOP podcast. Matt and I did something a little special this week. We're asked by the Tennessee Electric Cooperative Association to do our podcast live at their annual meeting. So we had the opportunity to sit down with potential Congressman Matt Van Epps.
Yeah, so we had a unique opportunity, as Ross mentioned, to sit down with 7th Congressional District Republican nominee, Trump-endorsed Republican nominee, Matt Van Epps, for this special election, which is coming up on December the 2nd, with early voting ending 4 or 5 days before that, around Thanksgiving. And, you know, Ross and I were talking, obviously, Matt will not represent, the 7th District is not part of Rutherford County, but a lot of that district touches Rutherford County, and it's a special election. And what that means, practically speaking, is it's the only thing on the ballot. Yeah. It's so, you know, it kind of throws out your traditional, oh, this is a 60-40 Republican district. Those types of things kind of go out the window because it is literally the only thing on the ballot. So it is a who can get their people to the polls to vote. So it's really critical. We wanted to highlight that election and highlight Matt and his story. And we guys really think you guys will enjoy the conversation.
Yeah. We can't afford to lose any more seats in Washington. And so if you have friends and families that are in the 7th District, it really covers from Clarksville all the way down to Williamson County. There's 14 counties in that district. Encourage your friends, get out and vote. Make them aware. The way we lose this election is if people don't get out and vote. So it's really important that we get out, we support Matt, and make sure we keep the House Republican. What a great conference. You know, every year I do different conferences, and this is one of the conferences I look forward to most. Mike and his team do a fantastic job. Before Ryan King left, he's called me and he said, what do you and Matt think about doing your podcast live at the TECA conference this year? And he said, I don't have anything to lose, I'm leaving. So I said, okay. So we're delighted to be with you this morning. I'm delighted here to represent Middle Tennessee Electric. I'm a director there with that group, and what a blessing it is to be around all y'all this week.
Yeah, and I can echo a lot of what Mike said. I had the privilege of before Matt's time serving in Governor Lee's administration, and I can tell you that this association carries a lot of weight at the state capitol. And my dad's here in the audience. He actually spent 30 years in a municipal electric utility, and so appreciate what you guys do. You're vital to our communities, and we're excited to kick this off for this live conversation with, as Mike mentioned, congressional candidate, GOP nominee, Matt Van Epps. And Matt, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. I'm so excited. What an amazing crowd. Really excited to be here.
Well, I'm going to rattle off some of your accolades, and then I'll let you'll do a lot better job telling the folks about your background. But Matt grew up in a military family with deep Tennessee connections. His dad was drafted into the United States Army and served as an enlisted infantryman in Vietnam. And Matt's a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, like your predecessor, right?
That's right. That's right.
And
I'm a little younger, though. So, yeah.
A little younger, better looking, maybe. And then he went on to serve as an Army officer, flew Apaches and Chinook helicopters in the 160th Special Ops Unit. He and his wife live in Nashville and is the GOP nominee for the 7th Congressional District.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. I think my background and story in service has helped prepare me for this undertaking, and I've always tried to build a background and experience that's based on servant leadership. My mom, it really started, duty, honor, and country for me really started before West Point. My mom was born in West Virginia. She was raised in Pennsylvania, very, very poor. So if she got an orange for Christmas, it was a really good year. My dad was from East Cleveland, Ohio, and lower middle class. He got drafted into Vietnam in 1965 and served as an infantryman and tunnel rat in 1966 and 67. He turned 21 in Vietnam. And neither my mom or dad went to college, but they raised my brother and I on faith, family, and freedom. And he and I are both West Point graduates because of their work. And those values have stuck with me and were the inspiration to serve, and went on and applied for West Point and was part of, so I got to West Point in July of 2001, and we entered with about 1,200 cadets, which was normal for that time. And normal attrition happens at West Point. And so 9/11 happens, and we know we're preparing to go to combat. That's what we're spending the rest of our time there doing. When you fast forward and we get to 2005, when we were graduating, May 2005, our graduation month, Time magazine put 3 of my classmates on the cover, and they called us the class of 9/11. That we entered West Point during a time of peace, we're graduating during a time of war, and we're the class of 9/11. Well, we find out on May 28, 2005, when we graduate, that class that entered with 1,200 was graduating with exactly 911, which is, I think, the hand of Providence, and is something that stuck with me. I remember being at Mikey Stadium doing the famous hat toss and looking down with my family at all my classmates and knowing that was the last time we were likely all going to be together. And several of my classmates gave that last full measure of devotion, and the military service is so important to me. Went on to fly Apache attack helicopters, deployed to Iraq for 12 months, and then served in the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment out of Fort Campbell, which brought me to Tennessee. Switched over to fly the MH-47 Gulf Chinook and was a fully mission qualified pilot in command, air mission commander, and deployed 8 times to Afghanistan with that unit. I may tell a story about that a little bit later, but that's a little bit. My brother's still serving in the active duty Army. I'm still in the National Guard. My unit's down in Tullahoma. I'm a lieutenant colonel, deputy brigade commander, and absolutely love that aspect of service.
Well, Matt, politics is funny because you just never know how the landscape is going to change. Mark Green has been a staple in our state as a legislator for many years, even contemplated running for governor. And I don't think anyone could have imagined that his term would have ended early and he would have stepped aside. So tell us about your idea to get into that race. You were the first one to kind of throw your name in the hat. There ended up being 11 candidates on the Republican side that all kind of threw their name in the hat, got very busy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your thoughts to jump into that race.
Yeah. So at West Point, I was a political science major, focused on, you had to pick kind of a focus area. My focus was international relations. And so I've always been interested in the public sector and public service, and have never been in politics. I was in state government for a while. In state government, I served in the Tennessee Department of Veterans Services under Governor Haslam, and then I moved over and was in the Tennessee Department of Transportation, was in the governor's office as deputy chief operating officer, and then later served as commissioner of general services for Governor Lee. So I've been around it and always been interested in public service and really trying to be a selfless leader that builds teams and get things done. And I think in 24, Congressman Green said that he was leaving before he got back in, and that was a feasibility test for me. And I reached out to a whole lot of folks that I knew and asked, hey, can we do this? Should we do this? What would this look like? And over the course of a week, my wife and I made a decision, and we were pregnant at the time, so it was even a harder decision. But we made a decision to get in, and then Congressman Green said that he was staying. What that allowed us to do was really kind of set conditions, and I had met and talked with a whole lot of folks. And so this year, when he said that he was leaving, we were able to form a team and move very quickly and launch first to get in back in, I think it was June 10th or June 11th. And we made a decision that really we weren't worried about who else was getting in, not from an ego perspective, but we just wanted to take our background, our ability to build teams and to operate, and take that message forward as fast as we could across all 14 counties. And that's what we set out to do. And I mean, just it's been a humbling and amazing process as our first-time candidate. So we very early on were endorsed by Mark Green, and then on those political endorsements, we ended up getting endorsed by Chairman Jim Jordan, who chairs Judiciary in the U.S. House, and then Congressman Mike Herodopoulos, and then in that final week, Governor Lee, and then President Trump. And that was I'll tell a little story on that maybe too. But that was just an incredible process. One of the things I'm just most proud of and thankful for is that in that we built local endorsements and support. We had endorsements from over 40 local leaders across the 14 counties, from county commissioners to farmers to highway superintendents, and just a whole lot of folks that came out to support our background and our vision for driving conservative principles in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so it's been honored by that.
So for those that aren't familiar, your district starts in basically Clarksville and goes all the way down to Williamson County. So you can tell it's a large district that covers a lot of different territory.
It takes about 2.5 or 3 hours when you're driving from one end to the other, too. And
Depending on what time of day.
Depending on what time of day, too, for sure. We can talk more about that, too. But it's a large district. It's really an incredible district, and I so appreciated the bipartisan forum that we had earlier in the primary process, and being able to talk about farmers and rural America, which is important to me. I did not grow up on a farm, but I did. My uncle, my dad's brother, had a small farm in Ohio where I grew up, and as a young kid, I was on horseback with my cousin who was a little bit older. That horse ran into an electric fence and threw me off, and I did get right back up on that horse. And so that's an important part to the story. But I've really tried to learn and listen as much as possible to understand how to serve and how to support farmers in rural Tennessee, and that part is so important to me. And I've learned a lot in the process, and I think, it starts with the full support for farmers from, early on, 4-H and FFA and supporting those programs, getting rid of the death tax to make it easier for farmers to pass along farms from one generation to the next. Broadband, which I know is really important for everyone here too, but I think that is so critically important that we get cell phone towers for GPS signal to farm equipment to get those products to market faster. About 2 weeks ago, I met with 40 farmers, and I know row crop farmers are struggling and trying to understand how best to work to solve that. And I think the president doing a deal that gets renewed, supposed to get renewed every year with China, that's a good first step to opening up a soybean market in China. Brazil is trying to undercut us in that. The Chinese opened a massive export terminal in Brazil and building a railroad to Peru to get their products to market faster. And so, I think that being said, I think China is one of the most consequential threats that we face. They're playing the long game, and there's a lot to that. But it's a step in the right direction that we have to continue to move along. And I'm not a subject matter expert in farming, but I've met with Farm Bureau, and I'm invested and want to learn more and be a part of that process and support rural and farmers as much as I can. In addition to military and veterans, small businesses, there's a whole lot of things we've got to work from the very get-go. But that forum was a great way to talk and listen and hear from folks as we drive forward with our message now. And so. Yeah, I think back to the original part of the question. So 10 other folks in the primary, and so we build this massive support that I'm just so proud of and humbled by. And so we ended up with that 11-person primary, we ended up taking 52% of the vote. We won 12 of 14 counties, and of those 12, 10 of them we won every precinct. And so we're just humbled by that, and that's the momentum that we're trying to drive into the general election that is 2 weeks from today.
Well,
I would love for you to kind of expand. I probably venture to say that you're one of the only people in the room that's got a phone call from the President of the United States. And so we were talking with a mutual friend of ours on the day that it happened. He got a text from you and he's like, oh my goodness, Matt's getting endorsed by DJT. And then, it was forthcoming. So tell us just a little bit about what that was like. You talked about all the momentum and endorsements that preceded that, but obviously that was one of the big ones.
I mean, just amazing. It kind of several pinch me moments here. So I've talked to the president 4 times now, which is, I hadn't talked to him before in this process. So Friday, October 3rd, this is the date time is seared into my memory. And so Friday, October 3rd, which was the Friday before the Tuesday in the primary election, I have my team together and we're in a conference room and we were planning the last few days and how we're going to execute to drive things home. And we weren't entirely sure where we were at as far as the polling numbers. We thought we had surged ahead. We thought we were out in front. We weren't entirely sure by how much, but we felt good about where we were at. And I was out in the hallway on a call, and my deputy campaign manager and campaign manager came out of the conference room and started walking at me really quickly. And I was like, well, this can't be good. And so they get to me and they're like, Matt, hang up your call. And I was like, okay, sorry, I got to go. And hung up the call and they're like, you're about to get a call. And I was like, well, I've got a missed call now from the same number three times. They're like, oh, call that number. I was like, okay. And so I called the number and almost immediately a person picks up and says, hi, Matt, this is the White House. And I was like, oh, okay, hi. And we had visited a few weeks before that. We'd gone to D.C. and we met with the White House political team and the Speaker's political team, the RNC, the NRCC, and we'd done a bunch of these meetings. And so, maybe this is the White House political team calling. And so probably 5 seconds later, a real distinctive voice got on and said, hi, Matt, this is Donald Trump. And I was like, hi, Mr. President. And so at that moment, let me tell you, my heart rate went real high. And the adrenaline spiked. And I had to take a moment and say, Matt, you've been in some tough situations in combat, and it's okay. Just take a breath and it'll be fine. And the president, just the nicest guy. And he started with just asking, how's my family doing? How are things going? He started to ask about the campaign, and it was just a kind of a surreal moment. And then he said, well, Matt, what would my endorsement do for you? And I said, well, sir, if we get it, we win. And he said, okay. And he said, well, I've got this Truth Social post drafted up for you. And it starts by saying Matt Van Epps, and it goes in, and he literally said, there's a bunch of really good stuff in the middle. And at the end, it says, you have my complete and total endorsement. And I said, oh, wow, sir, thank you so much. It's incredible. I'm so glad, so thankful to have that. And he said, but Matt, I want you to know, I am, and he said he had some staff on the call. He said, guys, what are we? He said, yeah, I'm 399-0 when I do this. And I was like, okay. And I literally looked at my team and I said, well, Mr. President, we're about to make you 400-0. And I said, and then I was like, we better make him 400-0. And it was a surreal moment. On that same call, he was talking to his staff while we were on together, and he said, well, I want to do a tele-rally for Matt on this as soon as we can do it. And so that Monday night before the Tuesday election, we did a tele-rally, which I'd never done that before. And it's also surreal when the president is your hype man, and he's the one that's introducing you. So that was a surreal moment too. And so we got on that call, and we were in the green room, kind of on hold, talking beforehand, and just the nicest, just asking about family. And then we went into the call, and he talked for about 3 or 4 minutes. I talked for 3 minutes. We learned after that call that there were 10,000 people on, and mostly from Tennessee. And it was just a really incredible moment. Fast forward to a week ago, and the president did another tele-rally. And that was also amazing. This one was a little different. The call started by playing God Bless America, which I loved. And then I introduced the president. He talked for 3 minutes, and then I talked for about 3 minutes. And on this call, there were a little over 15,000 on. And it was, I'm just so thankful for that support. And there have been just these moments in this that I could never have imagined. And I'm so grateful and honored by that support across the spectrum. And that's what we're taking forward to fight on behalf of Tennesseans and Americans when we win this in 2 weeks.
Well, one of the things you and I were talking about before we got up on the stage was all the other congressmen that have come alongside you and supported you, which I think is great about our state, that we come together and we support one another. And so tell us a little bit about that experience.
The Tennessee delegation's been amazing. It's just been amazing. Senator Haggerty and I he just did a video on our behalf. Senator Blackburn has been so supportive. She had a fundraising lunch for us last week. The full spectrum. We were talking a little bit. Congressman Burchett had us out to Knoxville, and we were walking with him at the football games. This is the football game after the primary election, and he invited us out to come out and meet a lot of folks in his district in Knoxville to help drive some fundraising dollars and work that. And I've told him this, but I call that the Tim Burchett experience, where you're walking the tailgate and you're moving as fast as he moves, and he's like, Matt, you got to keep up. I'm like, I'm trying, sir. I'm
moving the Carhartt.
Yeah, that's right. And so that was just great. And we met a whole lot of folks and did that. And you name it, John Rose and Andy Ogles, and everybody in the delegation has been so supportive and we've been at events together. They've introduced me, and it's because that we know broadly, we recognize the importance of this race, that the margins are so narrow in the U.S. House. The last trip I did to D.C. that I mentioned a few weeks ago, I met with Speaker Johnson for about 15 minutes in his office, and it was a great meeting. And he told us that he doesn't think he's seen a more critical race than this one right now, because the margins are that tight. Based on things that have happened across the country, when we get to D.C. in December, it's likely that this is down to a 1-vote margin. And it's literally this race is not about me. And that's what I've said from the very beginning. It's about the team. It's about our district, our state, and our country. And the contrast could not be more clear between me and my opponent and what we're going to fight for. And it's that critical. And so the whole Tennessee delegation, the president, the speaker, just the outpouring of support's been amazing. And it's because everyone recognizes this is just so critical. And I'm grateful for it.
Well, special elections are hard. I've been involved in one previously. It's hard enough to get people to show up to vote.
Yeah.
in a real election, much less in a December election. So what could folks in this room, Mike talked about being politically active and the importance of that. What could they do, practically speaking, especially if they live in your district, but just generally speaking, to be involved in the political process? Obviously, you mentioned Ross and I host political podcasts, and that's a lot of what we are doing, is trying to get people to be active politically. So what would your advice be?
Well, thank you. First off, I'd be honored and humbled to have your vote and your support. We need it. This is about turnout. It's about every single person getting out and turning out. You're absolutely right. This is not the normal dynamic. This is not the normal race because of the timing being election day is December 2nd. It's 2 weeks from today. It's right after Thanksgiving, and early voting's going now, though. It's going now through November 26th. And so that's part of the big message we're trying to push, and that a lot of our mailers and TV ads and things have on it, is that early voting is now, and the election is December 2nd. And when our team puts on the jersey and gets out and votes, we win. And that's what we need. And what I humbly request in this is that we need everybody's support. Every single person here is on the forefront of democracy, on the forefront of which direction we want our country to go in, and just need everybody's support and vote on that. And it's also about, so the things that we're doing to try to do that, to drive that, when you go out and vote, that's amazing. But then it's talking to 5 of your friends and saying, hey, do you know this election's going on? Do you know the consequences? Please get out and vote. We've got phone banks going. The NRCC, with the National Republican Congressional Committee, has assets in town. People and support. And so we're doing a whole lot of phone banking. We've made it very easy. We use an app, and that app allows you to basically press a button from your phone or your computer, and you make a call. And there's a button you push that has a very simple script that has a quick background on me and the election dates and what we're trying to do. And you engage with that voter. If they don't answer, there's a voicemail option that's a voicemail I've recorded, and we've got a few of those that'll be changing here over the next few weeks. And that's, we're using that and trying to get as many folks to make calls, because getting out to vote and knowing the election dates are so critical. We'll have door knockers going out. Some of you may have seen the commercial. There's probably more commercials coming. So thanks. And we're trying to push as much as we can so everybody knows that.
Matt, with your military background, you understand national defense, national security is a big issue.
Yeah.
It's something we talk about a lot here in this room with energy dominance.
Yeah.
Talk about your thoughts about that. I think we're all kind of curious your position on how we look at that going forward.
Yes. Well, thank you. I think we have to unleash American energy economy. I'm a supporter, I'm a proponent for nuclear energy. I think Tennessee has done an incredible job on leading on this. The first small modular reactor, as many of you, probably all of you know, will be at the Clinch River site in East Tennessee. In 2032 is that timeline right now. And it's new technology in the sense that we'll be implementing, but it's one of those things. As an Army guy, sometimes it's hard for me to talk positively about the Navy, but I will here, especially with the Army-Navy game coming up. But I love my Navy brothers and sisters too. And but then the Navy has gotten this right, and for a long time. You look at nuclear subs that never have to refuel, people don't get sick, and they've gotten it right. And so that same technology is what we'll be implementing, and it's so critical right now for national security. And it's all of that. It's oil and gas, and in allowing the private sector to do what it does so well, to innovate, and when we do that, when we unleash that, that's one of the key strategies to driving down costs, making America more affordable. It's reducing costs at the pump, at utilities. It's reestablishing and ensuring that we have stability in our grid, and it's also countering foreign threats and influence in China, and making us more reliant and secure. And I think that part is as important as driving down. I mean, driving down costs is probably number one. Those might be dual number ones. But I think investing in nuclear, ensuring that we have fast track permitting for oil and gas to be able to get things done, so the ingenuity of America that is so great, that will drive the innovation, that will push us forward and do it in really remarkable ways, is unleashed, and we support that and can do that.
Well, if we're not a leader in that technology, someone will be. And
that's right.
They may not be our friend.
That's right. And I think on that, we are about 500 nuclear plants behind in the United States. We have a massive deficit, and the power demand is, as you all know, it's only growing with AI and quantum computing on the horizon. Those power demands are only increasing, and America needs to lead in AI. It needs to lead in crypto, because we need, the rest of the world is trying to do this right now too. We need to set the tone. We need to pass responsible legislation that allows America to dominate in that, because if we don't, China will. And China is playing the long game. This is the most consequential threat that we face. They're doing everything in their power to put themselves in a position to confront us and to overtake us as the global leader, and we can't let that happen. It's about getting American technology out to the world, setting the regulatory standards, and ensuring that American companies are able to dominate and do that. And the power grid and power demand is a key component to that.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up here, what is kind of your elevator pitch as you head into Election Day here?
Well, thank you so much. Let me just talk a couple things, maybe share a quick story too, if hopefully we've got just a minute here for that. I think my background and where I came from, I started with my family. I've got a young daughter. I'm pushing forward to fight on behalf of our district, our state, and our country is so important to me, to support families and farmers, veterans, military. I mean, Fort Campbell being in district is huge from a force projection platform. That's where I serve with 160th. 5th Group is there. My brother served in the 101st Airborne. The economic driver that is Fort Campbell is so important. Electric co-ops are so important. And I'm a huge supporter of what you all do to keep it local control. What you all do for communities is so vital and so important, and we'll fight on behalf of all of you and fight alongside you, and eager to learn more and be a part of the solution. But we've got to drive down cost of living. We've got to make America more affordable. That includes housing. It's keeping taxes low. It's cutting red tape. It's focusing on decreasing costs for healthcare and childcare. And so we're focused in each of those areas and driving in each of those areas. But let me just talk for a second. I'm going to close with this story about service and leadership and fight and how I learned that and what we're going to do to push forward. So as I mentioned, my dad was an infantryman in Vietnam. And as my brother and I got older, he started to tell more stories. He suffered from severe post-traumatic stress his entire life. And he was reluctant, I think, to share some of that until we decided to make a decision to serve. And he told a story, one of the several stories he told, where he was on patrol. They were in the back of an armored personnel carrier, an APC, in Vietnam in 1966 in the daytime. And they got a radio call that their outpost had come under attack and was being overwhelmed by the Viet Cong. And so they did what American soldiers do, and they got in the back of the APC, and they started to move to that location to save their buddies. As they were nearing that location, the VC knew about it and set up an ambush, and they came under attack, and a rocket-propelled grenade was shot at my dad's armored personnel carrier, and it hit the track. And by the grace of God that day, that RPG was an anti-personnel and not an anti-armor RPG. So the guys inside were okay. They got that APC attached to another one to be towed, and they fought forward into that fight to save their friends. Fast forward a few decades, and my brother, serving in the 101st Airborne Division out of Fort Campbell, was on a team in northeast Afghanistan at a small outpost called Honor Miracle. And their job and responsibility was to train Afghan soldiers to be able to take the fight to the enemy. And while they were in their mountain outpost in a valley, daytime training their folks, they got ambushed from the mountains above. And my brother had a rocket-propelled grenade, an RPG, land 15 feet from him. And by the grace of God that day, that RPG was an anti-armor and not anti-personnel RPG. He dove in the back of the MRAP, the mine-resistant armored personnel carrier, the modern-day version of an APC, and they took the fight to the enemy. Around that same time, I found myself in Afghanistan and was serving with the 160th out of Fort Campbell. And I was Chalk 2, second aircraft in a flight of 3, and we got alerted to this mission about a very senior al-Qaeda target that was in a very remote outpost, also in northeast Afghanistan, along the border with Pakistan. And so we launched on very short notice to get our Special Operations Ground Force into that target. We infilled them and then went to Logger. And as we got called in for exfil. And what we tried to do is we always tried to plan our route so you had a different infill route and a different exfil route. And because of the location of this target, we couldn't do that. So our route in was also our route out. So as we were headed back in, I was right seat, pilot on the controls, night vision goggles, nighttime, very low moon, low illumination. And as we were headed into this valley, surrounded by mountains on our left and right, I heard my left door minigunner say RPG left side. And that rocket-propelled grenade flew underneath the body of the aircraft and bounced off the aerial refueling probe 10 feet in front of me. And by the grace of God that day, it did not hit the nose where the D-10 is, so the warhead did not explode, and it bounced off. We were we had flown into an aerial ambush and had PKM, machine gun, small arms fire. First thing I did, I said a quick prayer, and then we got to work. We destroyed that position, and we fought forward onto exfil our Special Operations Ground Force and complete the mission and fight forward. The Night Stalker Creed says that we want to be up front where the fighting is hard, and we'd rather die than quit. That was the guarantee we gave to the ground force, and it was something that were not just words, it's what we believed in. From those experiences, my dad, his brother in Vietnam, he served in the Navy. My brother and I in Iraq and Afghanistan, came a family saying, and that's chin up and head down. It means stay positive and avoid the bullets. And it's that same persistence, perseverance, grit, and determination that we are taking forward in this campaign to fight on behalf of our district, our state, and our country. And we will not quit in doing that. We will take this forward because that's what everyone here, that's what our families deserve. And we will, once we get into office, we will act like we never earned it, because that's what folks deserve. And we're going to fight hard every single day to keep that trust, to keep that fight moving forward. So thank you all so much. Thanks for having me here today. I appreciate the time and the dialogue, and so excited to spend more time with you all in the future as well. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast with Matt. Man, what a great opportunity it was to do that live. Such a great audience. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear your feedback. And I hope you can join us for more videos going forward.
See you next time.